Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Logan Tisdale could open us up in prayer.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale. I was asked to pray tonight, which is always a blessing and an honor to do that. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't really know what to pray. I've been struggling with this for the last 2 weeks. My soul wants to pray a pharisaical, sugary, tickle your ear prayer, but that's not what the Spirit of the Lord speaks to my heart. Because of the condition of our nation and the turmoil that's going on here, and there's so much division and so much hatred and so much discord, I really feel that we need to pray a prayer of repentance. It says in the Word that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will heal their land, I will forgive their sins, and He'll bless us. So I feel like tonight I'm going to pray a prayer of repentance. And as a minister of the Lord Jesus Christ, I stand in the gap for this nation. Father, I just pray that you forgive us our sins, that we humble ourselves before you, Lord Jesus. It says that you bless those who humble themselves and you bring down those who are prideful. And I just come today in humble repentance to you, Lord, asking for forgiveness for our nation. I pray that you bring healing to us, Lord. I pray you heal this land. I pray you minister to us, Lord. I pray you speak to the hearts of everyone, not only in this room, in this community, in this state, but in this country, Lord, that you care about us, but that we have to follow your rules and regulations, which are simple, to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I pray, Lord, you have mercy on us. We bend the knee to you and you alone. And I just give you all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I look for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion and supported. Your mic's not on. Mr. Bruning, discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Up next is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to A, approve and place on file the minutes of the September 7th, 2021 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, accept and place on file the general savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer. C, approve and place on file the revenue, expense report, and balance sheet for the period ending August 31st, 2021.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. We have no presentations. Public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up.
Good evening, Board. Jeff Pauley with the Monroe Sheriff's Office. I apologize for not getting on the agenda sooner. That is something that we are prepared to do in the future. So hopefully if you'll have me or the sheriff or one of our representatives, we'd like to come at least probably the second meeting of the month. So hopefully you'll have me. Just a couple things, and I'll be prepared to go over the service report in the future, but in public comment time, I'll just kind of glance over. I wanted to go over stats from year to present day. So from January 1st, 2001 through August 31st, 2001, I wanted to contrast or compare and contrast with last year during that same time period. So in 2020, we made a total of 582 traffic stops. This is for just the Bedford contract only. That was, again, for 8 full months, 582 traffic stops, 226 citations issued. This year, From the same time period, from January 1st through August 31st, we have made 2,358 traffic stops, along with issuing 511 citations. So I'm not a math major, or I would give you the percent increase on that, but it's substantial. Traffic crashes for 2020, the same time frame, was 210, and for the traffic crashes for this year was 251, for an increase of 41. So we've made it a priority to especially hit the busy areas. We want to stay in the we still are committed to going into the neighborhoods, doing business checks, property checks, but we've made a commitment to hang down by the state line, Smith Road, Stearns Road, Secor, Lewis, the busy areas, while not forgetting about our northern rural part of the township. So we're committed to that, and I'm here to tell you, if you guys have any problems, any questions, any complaints, if any citizens call you with some issues, you should know how to get a hold of us. I think each one of you have probably my cell phone number, my email, so feel free to reach out to me day or night. I'll kind of be your liaison. So I know it's not practical or normal for me to take questions, but if you had any, I'd
No, you can
certainly
take
answer.
questions. Anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Steiner?
Just a quick comment. You know, like our fire department has Fire Prevention Week. Ever thought about doing maybe a police, prevention week and have something like that, an event about safe driving or, various other things in the community? Like you said, it's obvious. I see the alerts of, Secor and Stearns, Quail Hollow. That's huge. Every time I look, it's Quail Hollow. And it's a tough area pulling out of those streets across the 4 or 5 lanes there. Secor, Smith, Secor, Summerfield, Lewis and Smith, all the bigger intersections. Mm-hmm. And I know you've got some new signs there in Lambertville for the speed and that, but I thought, maybe look into something like that as a prevention day, or even call a week or something, and just really raise that awareness.
Yeah, I can tell you we're very progressive. We're open to all ideas. We've had some discussions, not with the fire chief yet, but we've had some discussions about possibly partnering up with the fire department to kind of have an awareness day. They do a much better job than we do, so we would lean on them. But yeah, we're open to anything.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, well,
Mr. Bruning?
hey, Paulie, I just wanted to let you know your officers are doing a great job, especially Bozzy. Have him keep hammering those hotels. Dude, it's great. I like seeing it.
But I will tell you, we're very happy with Deputy Bozzy for sure. All of our Bedford deputies, but he does stand out. And I swear to you, it's like he gets dope, guns. He's making a darn near an arrest a night, if not, maybe 2 at times, and they're not small complaints. I mean, these are, getting a gun out of a car off a felon, getting a gun out of a hotel. He does a very, very nice job. Very nice job. They all do.
That's what's going to help us to declare those nuisance hotels and help get them shut down. So
Yep.
I'm fine with him hammering them.
We're committed. We're committed to that area, just as we are as downtown Lambertville, Temperance as well. And like I said, we will not forget about the northern part of the township as well. So,
Okay. Any more comments? Thank you guys for all you do. We appreciate it.
all right, thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. See you next month.
Okay. Any more public comment? Hopefully we don't get a tornado.
I hope not, and maybe I'll get my full 5 minutes.
There we go.
You think so? Okay, in any event, I'm only talking one subject tonight, and that is 8E, the TIMCOG membership. And I would hope that the board would look favorably upon putting in for a membership in TIMCOG. There are a number of advantages to being a member of TIMCOG, and that might be, one, the Lewis Avenue Corridor Committee and the projects that they're working on. TIMCOG might have some ideas that would be helpful. They have, in the past, I'm sure, done planning in programs such as that in the Lewis Avenue Corridor Committee, and maybe that would be helpful. The Township Planning Commission and the Township Planning Department might avail themselves of information that they have, TMCOG has. TMCOG works with 100 different organizations and agencies, and so there may be some advantages to getting information from them for that. Further, just a source of information, if the township has a problem, perhaps one of the members of TMCOG or SEMCOG have already addressed that problem and found a solution. So why reinvent the wheel if that wheel has already been looked at? While we're just a part of South County Water, the Regional Water Authority was first put together by TMCOG with Mayor Stout. But clearly our water comes from the Regional Water Authority, and TMCOG may have some advanced information that would be valuable for us knowing how South County might have to respond. Further, TMCOG has funding from the feds for planning the southern part of Bedford Township, Erie, and Whiteford. And since they have some money, why not go find out what they can do for us? Doesn't cost us anything. True, it costs us the membership. But there again, membership in both TMCOG and SEMCOG give you reduced rates as a membership fee. That's my thought. That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more comments?
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I also would like to speak to 8E. I believe that it would be imperative for the township to go back in a packet form with this group, along with SEMCOG. We get a discount by belonging to both of them. While we may be part of the Southeast Michigan, the sunniest part of the state, by the way, we are still more connected. Our people are more connected to Ohio than what they are to Michigan. We have how many people here that don't even realize that they've lived on the other side of the border and that they are now in Michigan? So I just believe, and having been involved with the streetscape, with the Temperance Action Committee and the EDC of the township in the past, this group, I think, would be a more positive asset, more directly related to our efforts that we're trying to do. It is a good way to try to keep the politics out of some of this stuff. This group here could work along with, and I don't know, maybe they do attend the pillar meetings, I'm not certain, but they would be a different aspect. They could work with getting the TARTA buses to meet our buses at the state line for people to transfer so that they could go shopping into Ohio. They are part of the bike path. Look at how progressive the metro parks are in that region and what an asset it would be. It's too bad we haven't had more people look at more of a metro park development here for this township, how much better the township would be if we had that. They are currently involved in the geocache program. Wood County is buddying up with the Lucas County so that the kids have a pathway for this. Why couldn't they pathway right up into this neck of the woods? You have the bike path, like I said, that's all part of, we need to connect with these people because this is where the majority of our people do their shopping and do their visiting and they travel through. We're not close to 75. We're not close to 23. We sit in between the two of them. So our actual access to all this is Alexis Road. Our Smith Road traffic is because of Toledo people. So I believe that this group here would work, and I think that the Lewis Avenue Corridor group, with their what they would like to achieve and what we need to achieve, would do far better by connecting with these people here. They would have a better vision of what we may need off of Lewis Avenue. I realize the DDA's got their own little method of madness over there, but the majority of the people that live in Lambertville originated from Sylvania. So it's to me, I think they would have a better impact, they have a better vision of what our people may be looking for. So again, I just would recommend that we join up with them again. They certainly did serve us well the last time we belonged to that group. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none, moving on to 8A, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $92,330.35. Fire District, $14,642.55. Police Fund, $211.90. Park Fund, $3,560.12. Fire Equipment, $19,505.86. Transit System Fund, $13,153. Library Fund, $1,132.16. Enchanted Forest Debt, $4,451.25. Canterbury Forest Debt, $1,483.75. Barber Lee Harmony, $787.50. Downtown Development Authority, $6,614.25. Sewer O&M Fund, $452,035.19. Trust and Agency Fund, $739 for a grand total of $610,646.88.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Janazek. Discussion? Comments? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, approval of 6 tax levy resolutions for the 2021 tax roll. These are 6 separate board actions required.
I have a motion for all 6 of them.
Go ahead, unless the board has any
You have any-
comments or questions. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the millage for the general operating levy of .7686 mils as presented to be levied on the 2021 winter tax roll.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the millage for the fire operating levy of 1.7431 mils as presented to be levied on the 2021 winter tax roll.
Second.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the millage for the transit system, which is Lake Erie Transit, levy of .2388 mils as presented to be levied on the 2021 winter tax roll.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the millage for the police levy of .3880 mils as presented to be levied on the 2021 winter tax roll.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Gore. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the millage for the fire equipment levy of .4920 mils as presented to be levied on the 2021 winter tax roll.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Hirschberger. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the millage for the library levy of .2460 mils as presented to be levied on the 2021 winter tax roll.
Second.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Janzasek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, approval of the 2021 Streetlight Assessment Resolution. Ms. Hirschberger?
These are all streetlights which are in subdivisions, and the streetlight assessment goes towards those properties. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2021 streetlight assessment resolution as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion and supported by Ms. Janazek. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Jandasek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 8D, approve 3 variations from Development Design Standards Ordinance for outdoor obsessions, 6300 Telegraph Road. You could come on up. Appreciate you being here.
No problem. Good evening. I'm Chris Benson with Jacobs Architects at 25 Washington Street, Monroe, here representing Outdoor Obsessions, asking for 3 variations from the township engineering standards. They all have to do with stormwater quality. I don't know, do you read what Jody sent you guys, or do you want me to just give an explanation of each one?
Does the board have any?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Explanation, that way the
I'm
public-
assuming that it was going to need some explanation. So the Outdoor Obsessions is at...
Just got to bring your mic closer so the public can hear you.
Outdoor Obsessions is taking over an existing site that is on South Telegraph Road. It was previously a manufacturer home sales lot. How long ago, I don't know. But that's what it was previously. When that site was developed at that time, there was, for whatever reason, there was no stormwater drainage created, which means that you would have a storm detention basin that the water would run into. It would have some form of stormwater quality, and then it would leave the site to a roadside ditch or a drainage ditch. In this case, the only thing we have to outlet to is the roadside ditch of Telegraph Road. So with the new developer taking over the site, his business is a design build yards, landscaping, and build pergolas and pavilions, little things like that. So he's not like a nursery business. It's not going to be where you go and buy plants. He's more of a design build for people's yards. So it's not a heavily used public, but it's more for his business to operate out of. He will have some retail sales there, but basically his business operates out of there. So in developing this site, basically the site can be used as is. It fits his needs. It has an existing building that he is already permitted to renovate. He has the storage in the back that was already there. He has the parking lot that's already there, so he's not really putting in any new hard surfaces that create any more stormwater runoff. But during the process of what it takes to get through site plan approval, we have to go through the Drain Commission. We had to go through MDOT for the entrance, and of course the township engineer reviews it. Stormwater drainage becomes very difficult for this site because it is flat. It is 4 acres that has less than 1 foot of elevation change from the front to the back. So it's very difficult to get water to drain. And then the roadside ditch that we drain to is very shallow. So we're kind of hindered with these constraints. So in working with the Drain Commission, having conversations with them and having conversations with Manick & Smith Group, your township engineer, we have designed a detention system that will collect water. We're working on trying to find a stormwater quality structure that helps to keep the debris, these silts out of the roadside ditch, which would then plug up the roadside ditch, which is all required by the Drain Commission. So with this site being as flat as it is and as shallow as the ditch is, we've come up with the best design that we can get, which does not meet the township standards nor the Drain Commission standards. But being that this was an existing site previously developed and the constraints that we have come up with the best solution we can that does require variations from your ordinance, your engineering standards. So this still has to go through the Drain Commission's office, and it has to go through your township engineer for their final approval. But we cannot submit to them because we already know what we're going to submit does not meet your standards. So they, because you have it written into your engineering standards, that you will allow for variations from that if we can prove that, we have the hardship, that we cannot meet it. They cannot approve those designs until you give your variation to those. So there are 3 that we're asking for. The first one, actually, I'm pretty sure we're not going to need, but I would like to get it anyway, just in case, because we're working with a company that creates these stormwater quality structures, and they are designing one right now that they believe that will work with our site with the shallow depths that we have to work with, which is the first variation, which is for what's called first flush. First flush is what is required to hold back water so that when we get heavy rains, these 10-year storms, 25-year storms, 50-year storms, they don't overtake the ditches that they're flowing into. So the water's meant to be held back. That amount, they calculated over a 24-hour period. That's what's called a first flush. So that water's held back. So in lieu of holding back that water, if you use a stormwater quality structure, then that water, you can use a higher output for those first 24 hours. So that's what that structure is. So that's what we're working on getting one designed so that we won't need actual variation number 1. But I would like to ask for it just in case I do. I wouldn't want to have to come back and slow down this process. The second variation is for what's called the freeboard. So when you design a detention system, you come up with a cubic volume of water that you have to retain. Besides that, and for instance, let's just say it comes up to an elevation of 595. The ordinance then says we want what's called a freeboard, which is like a safety factor. So you have to have so many, like the township requires 6 inches. So if my elevation is 595, the township requires an extra 6 inches of like a safety measure on top of that. And again, because of how flat this site is and low the ditch is, I cannot get that. I can get the detention volume that I need, but I cannot get that extra 6 inches. I don't have the depth to work with. And then the third variation is the bottom of the detention basin per the design standards is required to have a 1% slope on that detention basin bottom. And again, it's because I don't have the depth to work with that I'm at a 0.33%. So I can't get to that 1% slope, which just means the water's going to move a little bit slower. So those are the 3 variations that we are asking for from the design standards. And again, I want you to know that even if you grant me these, I still have to go through Drain Commission approval, and I still have to get your township's engineer's approval. So this doesn't necessarily mean, that it's all over and done with. I still have to get their design their design approvals. I have had conversations with both the Drain Commission and Manica Smith. They understand what I'm doing. They understand the design that we're putting forward, and they're in verbal agreements with me on it, providing I get the variation from you guys.
Okay, questions from board members? Mr. Steiner?
Ms. Benson, so you said number 1, because I talked to planning department as well, but number 1, you said you think you can get there on that one, not 100% sure.
Right.
And was it 2 or 3 you said you think you can get there possibly?
2 and 3 I'm still going to need.
Okay, 'cause she was telling me that she thought you might get 2 of them.
Originally, I thought we would get enough volume lower that I'd be able to make that 6 inches. But after running all the numbers again, after the first review with the Drain Commission's office, I cannot get there with the 6 inches.
I mean, I haven't gone out and walked that property, but I've been by there a million times, and I know it is extremely flat. So I guess next question, Mr. Goldsmith. will we have to have 3 separate votes on this? Or since it's not like BZA variance, this is something different, so we have 3 separates here?
I would recommend you do 3 because as we sit here now, we don't know if all 3 will be
Right.
adopted by the board or not, so you should do 3.
Okay.
Any more comments or questions?
Just a quick question. Wasn't this issue known prior to the business opening up? I mean, the business has been open for a little bit.
Well, yes and no. I mean, well, I should say no. Until you get into the design standard of it and you have a meeting with the Drain Commission's office so we have a pre-development meeting with the Drain Commission's office and you discuss the site. This being an existing site that was previously used, sometimes we don't have to do anything to these sites. They're considered existing, and then you can utilize them as is. Sometimes the Drain Commission, it's like if we can do improvements to a site, they want to see as much improvements as we can get. So currently this site has, I don't know how long it was developed as the mobile home facility, but it's never flooded a neighbor. It's never flooded the roadside ditch. It's never caused any problems. So that's one thing that we have in our favor. Whatever's happening out there, it's being able to drain itself. So with us being able to improve the situation by creating a detention basin, giving somewhere for the water to hold up, then go through a stormwater quality system or structure before it goes out into the ditch.
But
now,
was there original site plan? Because there's plenty of equipment over there right now, correct?
he has been utilizing the site in the back, yes.
Yes, he's been using it a
Yes.
lot. There's a lot of equipment there. I've driven by it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's been out there. There's been probably an original site plan. Wasn't this addressed then?
No, the original, you mean like for the mobile home?
No, for him.
We're going through the site plan process. We can't submit to the township until we get through the agencies. We can't submit to the agencies until we get through this process.
Just nervous about going down this road again with variances, and then we're going to have to go back and fight like we've had at other businesses, and that's all I have for right now.
Well,
Mr. Steiner?
Oh, one thing, and Mr. Goldsmith, correct me if I'm wrong here. This is going to be, since this is design standard, this is a little bit different than like a Board of Zoning appeals variance, where a Board of Zoning appeals variance, you know, you're very specific, and you could set some other precedents for the planning process. Whereas this is going to be very specific. It's not like you're going to go out and change an ordinance. So it's going to be a blanket across the board for any property. So this is going to have to be identified only on this property. I understand what Ms. Benson's saying is that the applicant came in, purchased a property that's a viable property, and he would like to do some additional business on the property. So he wants to improve the property to enhance his business. So to do that, he has to create a site plan to do any change of that property and development. And that's why this is really almost like a day one brand new site plan is what I'm hearing.
Yes, and I can tell you that without these variations, this site cannot be developed for anybody. Whether it's his business or whether it's any other business, if there is stormwater quality required, that doesn't change any slope of the grade. It doesn't change any slope of the pavement out there that exists. So it doesn't matter if a lawyer wants to move in there and the Drain Commission is going to require to get through site plan approval, if they're going to require stormwater drainage, we're in the same situation. It doesn't matter. It's that particular piece of property is never going to be able to be developed any more than it is without asking for variations, because the ditch out front is never going to get any deeper and the land is never going to get any more slope on it. So this is the only way to develop that piece of land. And the variation is actually written in the design standards that if the site is determined that it has undue hardship, that's what allows you to give the variation. It's much different from a a variance. The variation is much different than a variance. Right, Phil, I think?
Generally speaking, even variances are driven by site characteristics and the uniqueness of the property. But this particular variation is driven primarily by the drain commissioner and the site conditions on site and the ability to drain the property, retain water, and meter it off. So it's unique to this site. The ordinance does provide for these variations when you do have a unique site such as this. So you're not setting a precedent because you're dealing with a unique piece of property and you're applying the ordinance to the uniqueness of that property and doing the very best you can to allow a piece of property to be continued to be used, in this instance, as proposed by the owner. So and Joe, I know what you're referring to, and I understand what you're referring to. I think, and I hope, this situation will be markedly different than what you're referring to, and because of the uniqueness of this property and the pre-existing condition of the property, if that makes sense to you.
Well, at the end of the day, every property, every situation's different. You don't look at them all the same, so.
Yeah, you're right. It
doesn't matter what we're doing down the road. I mean, everyone's different, so.
I have preached for 30 years that you take each site, measure it based upon its own characteristics, and apply the ordinance based upon the site and its characteristics, so as not to the best you can, not to establish precedent or any precedential value as it might relate to another site. So that's what's being done here as presented by Ms. Benson.
Any more questions, comments by the board?
Why is this, excuse me, why is this coming to us before and hasn't been through Planning Commission?
My understanding, well, because if I were to try to do that first, I would submit my plans to the Drain Commission, I would submit my plans to your planning department, which would send them to the engineer, and they would reject me. They would reject me because I'm not meeting their standards. They're required to reject me. So the only way that I can tell them that I don't have to meet your standards is to get the variation. So it's a little bit of a circle of who's going to give the first approval. So that's why I've had conversations with them, both Doug Link at the Drain Commission and Mark Matthew at Manning & Smith. So they're very well aware of the situation that we're in and the process of how we're going to take to get through it. And when I was speaking with Jody in planning today, she can't accept it because she knows it's going to be rejected until I get something that will allow your township engineer to vary from the ordinance that he has to abide by. So,
do you know how the previous owner of the property got through?
No idea. I don't know how long. Do you have any recollection, Paul? How long has it been since that mobile homes?
It's been there for
That's
years.
been a long
It
time.
may be a prior legal non-conforming.
I have no
site.
idea.
So what we're dealing with here is not unlike what the Planning Commission deals with special land use approval. You get your normally you will get your special land use approval first before you get into the minutia of your site plan, because developers don't really want to spend the thousands of dollars typically that site plan costs unless they know that they can meet the standards of the special land use approval set forth in the ordinance. So it's in terms of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, she's absolutely right. This board has to pass upon whether these variations are appropriate for this site, whether you'll grant them before they can take the next step. But it's also important to remember that the Drain Commission is still going to apply its standards and still going to do its absolute best, as Ms. Benson stated, to improve the situation that pre-existed for this use.
Okay, any more questions, comments?
I would just, so my thoughts, I guess, are that this is a drain commissioner situation, is how I look at it. There hasn't been issues in the past, and it is being improved upon from its current situation. So I would be in favor of it, knowing that it's going through and going to have to go through the engineer and the drain commissioner, and that it's being improved on off of its current use that's been like that for a long time without issue.
Okay, I look for a motion.
We'll need 3 motions, should take them in order, and that will assist our planning director in dealing with this, and the engineer, and everybody who has to take a look at it.
Mr. Steiner?
I'll make the first motion, and I'm going to, whether I make all 3 or somebody else wants to make 2 and 3, I'll make the recommendation, instead of having to read everything word for word every time, that we reference, as presented in our packet, item number 250.1001, which is authority and criteria for this variation, and also reference item number 250.1002, which is the application requirements for the variation.
Support.
Motion supported, Mr.
Well, I just
Montrey?
wanted, that wasn't the motion. I wanted to make sure that's just added at the end of everybody's motion.
Yes.
So the actual motion is for number 1, Article 5, 250.501, number 2, stormwater detention, states that stormwater detention basin design per Monroe County Drain Commissioner's Office. The applicant is requesting the variation from this requirement due to the site as previously developed commercial site with no stormwater drainage in the system. For this approval to go through, this variance must be granted by the Township Board. It also must meet and be approved by the Monroe County Drain Commission and approved also by the Township Engineer before final site plan approval before the Township Planning Commission.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Montrey. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montrey?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, since you did such a good job, Mr. Steiner, and you cited the specific code sections that are applicable, I think it would be a good idea for you to make motions 2 and 3 if the board, with the board's pleasure.
Well, there you go, Mr. Steiner.
Nobody else wants to do it. I'll make the motion, the second motion, Article 5, 250.501, number 6, stormwater detention, stating the minimum of 6 inches freeboard must be maintained with a positive, non-erodible overflow capable of handling a capacity of a 25-year storm or larger event if determined to be necessary by the township engineer. The applicant is requesting a variation to waive requirement for the 6 inches of freeboard, as this site will drain to the roadside ditch on the east side of the telegraph. As it is, the property does not have the right kind of landscape for exact drainage to meet our current standard. Therefore, I make a recommendation for my motion to approve the waiver, again citing 250.501 stormwater detention, 250.1001 authority and criteria for variation, and 250.1002 application requirements for the variation.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Montrey. Discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montrey?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
Next item, I'd like to make the motion for Article 5, 250.501, number 7, stormwater detention, stating the minimum grade on the bottom of the detention basin shall be 1% where feasible and when sodded. For paved swales in the basins, the minimum shall be 4% when feasible. The applicant is requesting a variation to lower the required 1% slope at the bottom of the detention basin to 0.33%. Due to the flat grade of the site and lack of roadside depth, the detention basin has been designed at a lesser slope. Therefore, my motion is to approve the variance for the property, again, due to the grade and the landscape. Also citing Articles 250.1001, authority and criteria for the variation, and 250.1002, application requirements for the variation, and approvals by the Monroe County Drain Commission, and Township Engineer.
Support. Okay, motion and support of Mr. Montry. Any more discussion? Just call the roll, please.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, moving on to 8E, approval of Toledo Metropolitan Area Council of Governments membership. Mr. Steiner, you asked for this to be on?
Yes, I did. So I've been communicating with TMACOG over the last couple months. Bedford Township used to be a member of TMACOG. We've all heard some of the various benefits that we could possibly receive by being part of TMACOG. Not to mention, we can get reduced rates through SEMCOG, and TMACOG also comes at a reduced rate if we belong to SEMCOG. Some of the things we could do, and it was brought up tonight, and we've heard it in other meetings, this could be a good opportunity for the Lewis Avenue corridor to work with them. It could also help bring some of that federal funding. We could even request for some assistance, which we could have someone from TMACOG come to assist our people, to bring ideas to them, show them opportunities, and those people, we don't have to pay for their expertise to bring that in. So the one big thing that I did notice is they also made an offer to us that if we did renew, they would give us the remaining months of 2021 at no charge to Bedford Township, and then our membership would be for the 2022 is $6,417, and that's also if we continue with SEMCOG. And if we don't stay a member of SEMCOG, it would be $12,835. So in essence, we currently have just under a little over 15 months left if we do decide to renew with TMACOG. So again, we get 3.5 months free this year based on the time that this has come to the board, and then all of 2022 for that opportunity.
Okay. I'll speak to this a little bit. So this money was not budgeted. It was not put in the budget. We didn't discuss it during budget time, so that's a decent amount of money to just come up with without, we should have probably talked about this at budget time if this was something that we were thinking about doing. Second, we're represented by the Drain Commissioner's Office, South County Water. They sit on the board and they represent us water-wise. When all the discussions were happening, Bedford Township had nothing to do with it. The Drain Commissioner's Office negotiated everything, went to all meetings, were represented. Third is who's going to go to the meetings? Who's going to be involved? Because I've asked Trudy and Krista, and they're not going to be involved. I'm inundated with meetings. Do you plan to be the representative and go to the meetings?
Well, I was going to make a recommendation if we wanted to go that route. I don't know what their schedules are yet. We'd have to talk to them, but
They're all during the day.
I know it, and that's why I was going to say that I didn't know if Mr. Gore's schedule would work to do TMACOG or Mr. Bruning. Probably Mr. Gore. It might be good because he's also on the Lewis Avenue corridor, so he could carry that information freely between those two agencies. And then I would be willing to say I'll do an alternate position. I'd have to try to work it out with Joe because they do accept alternates, and try to coordinate with Joe when he couldn't be there, that I would have to try to work it into a schedule where I can do that as well, since I don't work in the office all 5 days of the week. It varies, but as long as I plan ahead, I can do that.
So here's what I would say to that, Joe. If you're going to spend a lot of time on, if you were going to do this, because
This is the first I've heard about it.
Okay. So if you were going to, I would encourage you to get involved with SEMCOG, because we can receive funds from them. Funds cannot cross the lines from TMACOG to Michigan. We can't receive funds from them. Never have. We never will. Now, we did, when we were involved, when I first got on, we did have a bike event, and we received some shirts. Okay, but that was the extent of the actual dollars. So we were involved, okay? Mr. Pryor was on the executive board. I went to the meetings. and some of the sessions they held, everything's geared towards Ohio. I would just say, from being involved as much as I have, if you're going to spend time and do it with SEMCOG, who is in Michigan, who we are, you know what I mean, in direct contact with, the BDC, and be involved with them. I mean, as far as the Lewis Avenue goes, I mean, I sat on that board, and Tim Lake came to every meeting and did not charge us. He helped us out and did whatever he could do. So those, you know, I wouldn't necessarily, I would hate to see this board just join a membership to do it. If we're going to do it, it would have to be something we're all in. And you can't just be a member. Because as far as being represented, Dave Thompson with the Drain Commission represents us. You know, I mean, it's as far as economic development, you know, they're not going to try to help a business come to Michigan. Their business, they worry about, it used to be in our old contract as far as the water. That, you know, so it was, you know, I could just, you know, it's a lot of money. And the biggest thing is it's not budgeted. You know, this board is all about budgeting things. And
when was the last time we were a member with?
It's been a few years, 3-4 years, right? I mean,
because that's one of my thoughts, was it's not necessarily a new thing.
Well, the other thing is if you want to go to the meetings, you could go to every single meeting that you want to. You don't have to be a member to show up and go to the meetings. You can be involved. Now, you can't sit on executive boards and stuff, but you could go to every single meeting and get involved and get to know all those people. You don't have to be a member for that.
Yeah, but yeah, my thought was, been a member of it in the past, and there's a reason that we're not members anymore. And I think that would go to speak to perceived value versus actual value. When you're not a member, there's possible perceived value. When you've been a member and then stop being a member, it's because there wasn't actual value, would be my assessment of that. And that the other thing that I considered was it's not in the budget. I thought we kind of had, even when they were here a couple weeks ago, I thought we had kind of collectively decided that probably there's no real value, there's no real interest. So I was interested in hearing other people's thoughts on that, because I didn't know if I misunderstood or misread. I thought when they were here however long ago, I thought it was kind of a collective, thanks for coming, but not really interested. So if anyone else is, I would be interested in hearing that.
Was the reason the previous board opted out of it, was it for lack of value or financial reasons because of the...
It was lack of value. I mean, when you are in, okay, if a trustee wanted to get involved and do it, it's okay, but when you're involved in the full time, there's so much you can put time to, and only so much time in the day that you're out of the office. Because when you're at these meetings, you're gone. And their offices aren't, you know. So are you going to go to SEMCOG where you can see dollars and grants and get involved, or are you going to go to TeamCOG where most things are geared towards Ohio and you can't see funds come across the lines? You know, so and that's what Ms. Tinneberry preached year after year.
My other question was, how involved are we with SEMCOG? Again, it goes perceived versus actual. Whether, if it's a good point I hadn't thought of, that if we're not that involved in SEMCOG, that is a very good point. That would be a good idea to, are we taking full advantage of the one we're already paying for before we look at expanding? I think that's a good point.
I sit on their grant board. Al sits on a board with SEMCOG. Al, he's on bike committees throughout I mean, we're very involved, you know, with the BDC, and, you know, I feel like we're getting, yeah, I feel like 100%. Absolutely, we get, you know, benefit from that. And if we didn't, I would bring it to the board and say we shouldn't be a member. That's why we did it with TIMCOG. I mean, if I thought there was value in it. Now, if we want to partner and give the $6,000, because TIMCOG does great stuff in Ohio. There's no doubt about it. They're doing great things, and it's a great cause. And if we want to give money and be a member just because it's a great cause, that's one thing. But if we're doing it to see a return on our dollar, you're not going to see a return on your dollar. Mr. Steiner?
Well, you never get anything if you don't put the time into it. So how many meetings are you and Al spending with SEMCOG today per month?
Well, since they've gone back to in person, Al's going to them quite often. I haven't been to a grant meeting because I haven't gotten an email for one in quite some time.
So
But we're involved as much as we can be.
Okay, so if we're part of SEMCOG, what kind of financial gain have we received? Besides the Drain Commission, because we don't need to be SEMCOG for the Drain Commission to sit up there and negotiate. And again, this all goes to every single board, and to your question, Craig, is every single board that we've had with a mix of people over the years, different ones vote yes, different ones vote no for TMCOG, SEMCOG, both. Same thing with MTA, the lawyers fund, same thing. Some want it, some don't, and things can change from, administration to administration. Again, you've got to put into it. You can't just join it and sit back and say, oh, well, it's not like getting a periodical magazine that you get every month and just read it. You've got to do something with it. You've got to take the information you get from those agencies. And yes, Paul's right. The actual dollars per se can't be spent from Ohio to here. But as a regional partnership, which we've stressed for many years, SEMCOG is the same way. It's a regional. TMCOG, same way, regional. Yes, they're Michigan and Ohio entities, but they work in consortium as a region. So they work on projects together, so trying to tie projects from one state to the other, because it's like the old bridge to Alaska. If it goes out in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't go anywhere, right? But if you build a bridge in Michigan and it goes to Ohio line, it goes nowhere. Same thing if you build it in Ohio, don't do anything in Michigan. It goes nowhere. By working together, you can put those projects together and put a plan together. That's the problem. If somebody's not willing to help sit down and work out a plan with the agency to make it a benefit, then I don't think we should belong to either one of them. Honestly, if you want to look at it that way, for a long time, Al was going to the TMCOG meetings, and then all of a sudden, he used to give a report, and all of a sudden, we didn't get any reports for a while. TMCOG came back last year, approached the township. None of us ever heard about it initially, but they approached the township, and they never got a response back from anyone. I brought that up before I even asked them to come and give us a presentation. I didn't get the perception when they were here that it was just like, oh, well, pretty much the board says it's a no-go and see you later, bye. I didn't get that feeling at all at that meeting. I don't know if anybody else did besides you, Craig, but that's not what I took away from it. But again, if you're not going to ask them questions, if you're not going to communicate with them, you are going to get zero. And I've been communicating with them now for probably 3-4 months, and I've probably gained a lot of information.
We sat on their executive board, and we're at every caucus. We were extremely involved.
Well, that's what I said.
We were, and that's why we stopped, because we got to focus on the things where we're seeing our value. That's why we stopped. That's why we started focusing on going to bike committee meetings so we can get a loop throughout the county and doing the other Lake Erie Transit, and some of these that were involved in things where we are seeing a value. We're not just going to go to meetings. I don't know if Mr. Fred just went to meetings, you go to meetings, but we're not just going to go to meetings.
I get it.
We are involved in 2 or 3 meetings a month with them in these caucuses, and it's a lot of time.
Okay, but you can't.
And when you're going there listening to Ohio stuff, constantly, and you don't.
But you can't
eventually
bring
stop
back
going.
a report and say, okay, this is what we did, and just report out on it. There's a lot of things that don't happen because people have good ideas and nobody takes action on good ideas. It's just like, well, it's not up to me.
Why don't you do this? Go to the meetings for the next year. You don't have to be a member. Just go to the meetings for the next year and report to us in a year and tell us what you think.
Well,
get involved. You don't have to be a member to get involved.
But no, now you're asking the impossible, Paul. You know darn well.
Well, go to a few of them. Or you and Mr. Gore can exchange.
And that's why I said.
That's what you were talking about. He's asking you to go to boards without even asking you. So nobody can go except for you, because I don't feel like he's
and I didn't mean to put Joe on the spot, but I'm going to tell you what. I did not go around to this board specifically because I didn't want anyone to think, oh, well, you're polling the board to try to get a vote. I will not do that. And if Joe's flat out no, I'll say, you know what, let's vote on it, move on. or get rid of it, move on. Or if Joe wants to think about it, I'd say let's move it to the next meeting.
Well, Joe has thought about it and listened to Mr. Peroni, Mr. Montry, and it doesn't sound to me like, I could go sit on these meetings and it's all going to be Ohio, Ohio, Ohio. And no value is going to come into Michigan, no money is going to come into Michigan. So right now, I'm not willing to go down that road.
And don't get me wrong, they will come to boards. You can get them involved and there's certain things, you could get them involved to do, but nothing different that you can get from SEMCOG or the BDC. I think we need to take a vote or table it or
we'll make
move
it
forward.
short
I'd be
and
fine
simple.
tabling it, get more information back to us, Rick, on what days and times the meetings are.
Tell you what, I'll make a motion to push this till first meeting in October. I don't want to push the second, especially if we do join. We've got 3 full months of no charge.
Well,
And we'll get you some information on meeting dates and times. And then,
I don't want to see us beat a dead horse either, because I totally got the feeling Mr. Montry got from listening to Christan Trudy. It was, no interest at all.
well,
I don't want to
speak
see the
up.
board kick the can if we didn't budget. If we're not going to vote for it because the board didn't budget alone, why don't the board speak up and let's move on and not put it
Well,
on
that's
an
what I'm saying.
agenda item and have
We need
another
everybody
hour
to speak
discussion.
up. It's not me and Paul and Craig. Everybody needs to speak up.
I'm fine with pushing it for more information. I just need to know what days and times the meetings are.
I could go either way. I'm fine with pushing it, but I'm also fine if we just move forward and not beat a dead horse. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of support to move forward.
Ms. Janet or Ms. Hersberger?
So in the past, we belonged to Team McClog for a lot of years, and they kept asking us, what's the benefit? What's the benefit? What are we getting? Finally, at the end, this is when Mr. Stewart was supervisor, he said, I can't show you a benefit. So I came to the board to hear what you heard, Rick, what would be our benefit, because going into this, I thought, why are we doing this again? We didn't get a benefit all those other years. What's the benefit now? So I was open to hear what new information you might have, because I didn't see a benefit in those previous years because the money can't cross the lines, and federal dollars we can get from SIMCOG. SIMCOG has also given us different grants. So I'm open to hear more information, but in the past, I haven't seen that benefit. So
I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw it out, and you guys can all hate me if you want. But you know what? I'm going to be just like other comments I've heard. Nobody called me about this when it was on the agenda. Nobody asked me questions about this being on the agenda. Shame on everybody. I guess it's shame on all of us if we see something and we don't ask somebody ahead of time.
well, if
So
you
you know
want to
what?
get information and bring it back,
I know, but I'm just saying.
that's fine.
But we know the answer to it. I'm surprised it's even back here, to be quite honest with you.
Well, you know what?
When we know the answer, we had a Team COG here for an hour explaining to us, the information. We joined back, so we could say, hey, let's get involved. We got involved, and in the end, I even gave my explanation. So, Al, you're not going to see a benefit. Like I said, the biggest benefit that you're going to see is Team COG is a great organization in Ohio. They do great things. They support the water. They support everything. Okay, but, so you would be giving money for that if you believe in that. I believe in it, so if you want to, I'm not going to become a member to simply, give our tax dollars across the line because they're going to do the great things without us. And like I said, Dave Thompson with the Drain Commissioner's Office, they are members and they do represent us. And if you want to go to the meetings, go to the meetings.
Yeah, I'm just going to finish it. I work on a global basis, and I understand how partnerships work throughout the entire world. So I'm going to say I'm going to request to have it tabled till indefinite, and maybe next year at a budget time if anybody wants to consider.
Support. Okay, motion is supported by Proning. Any discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Peroni,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
And the motion passed 7-0. And I just want to say one thing, that if you guys ever get a letter that's addressed to me, like this one, the one you got is changed because it was whited out and changed, but this one says, the Honorable Paul Peroni, Dear Supervisor Peroni, this was placed on the agenda without me even reading it first. So in the future, if anybody gets a letter and you're going to put it on the agenda and it's addressed to me, I'd like to see it first.
As you texted me, Mr. Peroni, and I responded to you.
Yeah, I didn't agree with you.
Huh?
I didn't agree with your response, so I just didn't respond.
What do you mean
to
you
that.
didn't agree? And I'll tell the public, here's what the response was. Mr. Peroni said that next time you get a letter that's addressed to me, I'd appreciate it if you send it to me. And I respond, and he said, and he had it out with the clerk's department.
I don't know. How do you know I talked like that if it was a text? I didn't have an attitude.
Paul,
Either way, just in the future, I would like to see a letter before it's placed
Let
on
me
the
finish,
agenda.
Paul. I'm not going to play your game.
Go ahead.
I responded and said, Mr. Peroni, I didn't say Mr., I said Paul. I said, I requested all this information over the past couple months. The email was addressed to me, and I did not catch that they put the header on the one page of 2 presentations that they sent. I didn't catch they put Mr. Peroni on there. Okay? And I told you that. So let's not play this, next time.
Well,
you
you're
need to
obviously
send it to
playing
me.
it because you're speaking on it so much. We can move on. I just simply said,
But-
next time anybody gets a letter, let me know.
Well, and you know what?
It's that simple.
If I get it, and if I catch it, I will not forward it to you. Okay. If I asked for it, I'll send it back to them, and I'll say, address this appropriately, because I requested all the information.
Okay. You good? I'm good. All right, moving on. Okay, comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual. Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Scott Garrity at 9238 Castleberry Drive in Temperance. I'm here to follow up. I sent an email to each of you on the board last week and expressing that last year I developed a short meeting to honor Indigenous Peoples Day, which is October 11th. I would like to do the same this year and requesting your support. That support, fortunately, I'm not asking for any money, simply the possibility of having the ability to have that meeting here and to have you help promote, not with money, not with flyers, but through social media or other events. Because I did not hear back from any of you, I wanted to come this evening and follow up to ask the board to lend its support to honoring Indigenous Peoples Day, which is a Michigan state holiday. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I'm addressing the variances that you gave tonight. As Phil said, these attach solely to this property because you have given them a hardship variance. But remember, those design standards, when we talk about the first flush, when we talk about the freeboard, were designed and in consideration of 5, 10, 15, 30, 50, and 100-year rain occurrence. And so if we look at New Orleans just recently, they've had 200 or 300-year occurrences just recently, and look what's happened. So again, I'm sure they'll have issues when they get to the Drain Commission, but clearly, when it comes through the Planning Commission again, review again the basis for those design standards and why they were put in place the way they were. It has to do with, well, we don't talk about FEMA and floodplains, but it talks about 5-year, 10-year, 15, 50, and 100-year occurrences. So when you see it, Rick, when it comes through again, think about those. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Just in regards to TMACOG, I guess I know more about this just because of the involvement I had with Lewis Avenue in the downtown development and how much we need to have someone that speaks for us, that makes this connection, this TERDA and our bus system. They could make a loop. We would be utilizing what is in Michigan, and they could opt in to find things for us. Oddly enough, we have time for golf outings. We have time for all these other things, these other meetings that are going to benefit us in the long run for our political aspirations of the future. That's wrong. Wade Kapikevich made a comment that I felt very pleased with him saying it, even though I don't live in Toledo, that he's the current mayor and he should not be campaigning. His job is to be running the township. That means being in the office and not so much at meetings. And if the township was to take this on, then Mr. Pryor could attend the meetings. Other people could attend the meetings. We have deputies in other departments. Erie Township belongs. There has to be a reason why Erie Township and our other surrounding communities belong to this. If there wasn't a value, I can't imagine that Erie would be wasting their money in it. So, Mr. Steiner, you may want to check with them, and if not, maybe I'll go to the meetings. What the heck? I mean, I need to probably apply for planning. We haven't even had the courage to select from the beginnings of our policies, which required the policies of putting the people's names in and selecting from those people. We haven't even achieved that yet. So we have some deficits here that need to be, really evaluated if people really knew what was going on. So I'm just very disappointed in this because I think the Lewis Avenue corridor needs
Thank you
this
for your
to move
comments, Ms.
forward.
Keene. Have a great night.
You too.
Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on to comments from board members. Mr. Steiner?
A couple things. We've got a couple vehicles that have been for sale. Obviously, they're not sold. Doesn't sound like we've had any appropriate bids to meet our minimum bids. I think we should review those and see about getting those reposted. Maybe we need to review and see what that minimum is, and either that or just making an open bid and take a look at the bids when they come in. But we should at least try to do something with the vehicles instead of just sitting in the back lot. Also, we were all delivered a letter from a lady in the township, Alice Beckham, and she said she's I'll read it again here. She's a person that really enjoys having garage sales and feels twice a year is unfair. She doesn't run a business out of her garage, and she's met a lot of nice people having the sales. She does it for fun. And she basically requested the township consider maybe allowing more than 2 garage sales per year by ordinance. And she's also evidently received information from the Attorney General of Michigan. It seems to say other communities can allow up to 6 per year. Duration of the sales are up to 1 to 3 days. I just figured I'd bring it up, and if the board wants to discuss it, and do we want to, talk to the planning department about changing the ordinance, or just leave it alone? That's it.
Okay. Mr. Montry?
I don't think I have anything outside of, I feel the board needs to be commended for our discussion surrounding 8E tonight. I think was the closest thing to deliberation this new board has had, and I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Gore?
Rick, you brought up something that I was going to bring up when I talked to Mr. Bruning about it, about the garage sales. I didn't even know it was an ordinance. You can only have 2. I'm fine with talking and bringing that up. Do we have to get it on an agenda, Paul, or is that something that we can do with the...
We probably should, if that's something the board's interested in. I mean,
I'm fine
it
with
would
it.
have
I
to go
thought-
to planning and, go through the proper process,
Yeah,
I could tell you this, we have a lot of other ordinances that
I
that
understand.
we're working on, we need to bring to fruition before we
I
worry about
understand,
a garage
but
sale.
I'll give this citizen credit. I give this citizen credit for going about it the right way and wanting to follow the ordinances when most people would just say, I'm just going to have 4.
Well, most people, I mean, there's some houses, that I see that have them on a regular basis like a business, and it messes traffic up, and I can tell you this, a lot of neighborhood people probably don't appreciate 200 cars coming by their house, and,
I understand it's a small issue that we've got bigger fish to fry right now, but I do appreciate the citizen at least doing the right thing and bring it before the board. So whenever you want to discuss it, I'll discuss it. So other than that, everybody have a good evening.
to answer your question, if the board wants to consider it, our policy for a zoning text amendment does require direction from the board to the Planning Commission to consider developing a text amendment to the current ordinance relative to
Which
that.
should be pretty easy, I would think. Changing the number.
Could be.
Or you do
might
2 in the
wanna give
spring,
up-
2 in the summer, 2 in the fall.
You might want to
or
put dates on or something.
something like that.
Other than that.
You might want to take a look at it in terms of standards that would be applied, but to take a fresh look at it. But yeah, I think it's a fairly straightforward thing if the board has the desire to move in that direction. So,
Okay. Mr. Bruning?
Nothing more to add. Everybody have a good weekend.
With the TMCOG discussion, I do think it's a good idea to communicate with our board members, not to tell them or ask them how they're going to vote, but to talk about certain situations. And it's just like talking to the fire chief about, equipment or what we need before a board meeting. So, we do get some questions answered. Yeah, you can email all you want and stuff, but, making a phone call and just talking about something and, can be beneficial as well. The first annual Bedford Community Pet Drive, October 16th and 17th from 9 to 4, will be at the Pearl Albert Green Park in Lambertville. The DDA's trying to sponsor more events to bring awareness to the area. So donations of dog and puppy food, cat and kitten food, wet and dry. Kitty litter is greatly appreciated. We will accept any food, wet or dry. Humane Society of Monroe prefers Purina Dry for cats and kittens and Purina One for dogs and puppies. The Monroe County Animal Control accepts all brands of pet food. Donations will be distributed to the Monroe County Animal Control and Humane Society of Monroe. No cash donations can be accepted. Unopened and new items can only be accepted. Adoptable pets will be available for viewing and walking. Adoption applications will also be available. They're very grateful for anything they receive. And after all, it's about taking care of bringing comfort to the lost, neglected, abused, and abandoned animals. So if you want any more information on that, give me a call or shoot me an email. The fall cleanup is this Saturday, September 25th. I just realized that I'm giving my notes. I forgot to. I went right down the row here, didn't I? I'll just keep going. This Saturday, September 25th from 9 to 3. That's located behind the bus garage at Indian Creek Community Park at Douglas and near Concierge. So get on our website or on our Facebook page and you can see the items they will take and the items that they won't take. Get there early because it will be lined up down the road. But it's a great opportunity to get rid of that unwanted trash in your front yard or that, but the main thing is you have to be able to handle it. One person's got to be able to handle it. It can't be something that it's just going to take 3 people to unload. So also the Bedford Boo Bash is Saturday, 10:30 from 12 to 3. That'll be at 3662 West Stearns Road at the Pearl Albert Green Park. There'll be a trunk or treating, face painting, photo booth, pumpkin decorating station. There'll be games and food and fun, and horse carriage rides will be provided. So come on out for that. September 25th, Roy Orbison and Elvis Presley will be 2 shows from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the American Legion Post, 514 on Lewis. For tickets, you can call the 419-466-3458, or they can be purchased at the door. So that's all I have. Ms. Janizek?
I just wanted to let people know that in the township update, I put an article in about the Grants and Loans Committee. We are looking for anyone who has anything that needs to be done to their house to make it up to code, any new roof, furnace, water heater, stuff like that. If you have any questions on that, please call my office. There is income requirements for that, but if you want any more information, please just call my office, and myself or one of the girls in my department can help you with that. Other than that, I have nothing.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
Update everyone, we had another grant writing committee meeting, and what we ended up doing and discussing was sending out a an email to all the boards and commissions to see what projects are they looking at doing, do they have any money budgeted for it, and just to give us some ideas of what kind of grants that we need to be seeking. We found a ton for the park board to improve our parks that we're going to be going for, but we want to make sure that the park board is on board with the grants that we're looking at. We don't want to do anything if they don't want to go forward with the grants we found. And then just to let the community know, Friday and Saturday, the Lions will be out for the white cane sale, so just be careful when you're approaching some of those intersections when you see them standing there. That's all I have.
Okay. With no further questions or comments, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Support.
Motion to adjourn.